This is fun. How many of you have been to TechPHX before today? Other years?
We was PodCamp.
I didn't say PodCamp. I actually have that word rearranged in my brain now. But I'm actually saying TechPHX. So welcome. I just think this is such an awesome event. It's my favorite thing the whole year round. I considered doing 2 talks here. I was so excited about it, and then I realized I was being crazy. That's like somebody looking at a whole piece of, a whole chocolate cake thinking, yeah, I can eat that. No, a slice is fine. So anyway, we're here to talk to you about Evernote. Stephanie and I are both avid Evernote fans. We use it fanatically in our business. We talk about it with everybody we run into, all of our clients. And so let's get started here sharing this information with you.
We're going old school on the slide flipping.
Yep.
Yeah. You both work for the same company?
Yep.
No.
Oh, okay.
And we'll talk a little bit about that, but
yeah,
it's a great question.
No, we're just friends.
And we realized we both have this like kind of nerdy love for Evernote, and we were like, we should do a talk about Evernote because we preach about it in a weird way.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're probably here today because you've heard about Evernote. Evernote's getting a lot of press these days. Magazines like Fortune and the Wall Street Journal are doing articles talking about business productivity tools, and they mentioned Evernote in with a list like Dropbox and other things that people have heard more about. So Evernote is one of those amazing free tools, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with the tech world, if there's anybody here that falls into that, I'm looking around thinking probably not. There's a lot of people who are really reluctant. Like when I talk to my clients and I say, there's this great tool, and I just start describing what it is, they start looking like, and how much does that cost? It's free. And they're like, what's the catch? They don't really get it, that there's all these great free tools out there. And Evernote is one of those. And so it's just, such an awesome thing. I'm amazed that more people haven't heard about it. But anyway, like I said, it's getting a lot of press. It's showing up a lot of places. And so we want to tell you how you can actually harness this to use it for your business. Stephanie and I both use it also personally. And we're not going to talk too much about those examples today, but really just the business ones.
And I think a lot of the business examples you can apply to your personal stuff,
Exactly.
A business trip, you're going to use it the same way to plan a personal trip, so that kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So what we want to do today is we want to inspire you. We want to give you examples so that you go home and, well, let me ask you this. How many of you actually have an Evernote account right now?
Wow. Oh, nice.
And are you using it at all?
Just started again.
Just
I've
started.
been doing it for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
I signed up and don't do anything with it.
That's kind of a common thing I've actually heard. Like, I signed up for it. I don't know what to do with it, so what now? So I'm glad you guys are here because it's one of those things, I think because it's so open-ended, it's kind of a strength and a weakness. There's a lot you can do with it in a lot of different ways. Yep. But I think it makes it, because I was the same way at first, like, okay, what now? So it's not as clear-cut, like, okay, what's the next step? So.
Well, I had an account for 3 years, and then about this time last year, I got this idea. It suddenly occurred to me, like the light went on. It's like, I can use Evernote to create a personal wiki. Now, if that means something to you, great, go for it. If it doesn't make any sense, ignore that I said it. But it really, that was what clicked for me, and from there I started using it aggressively, to the point where everything I do in my business now is in Evernote. And I have this personal system now for keeping track of everything. So we're going to share lots of ideas, lots of inspiration today, and that's what we want to do is inspire you. So if you hear something you think is brilliant, steal it, modify it, do whatever you want with it. If you hear something that you think is a little crazy, just go, you didn't hear it, all right? So Stephanie and I are so different. We use it very differently, and I think the balance you're going to get seeing us at 2 ends of the spectrum will give you an idea of how wide open this thing is.
Absolutely. So just to give you a little introduction to us, Charlene is kind of your, well, I'm not going to say typical because you're not typical, but she's the left brain and I'm more the right brain. And Charlene is a business coach. She runs her own business, which is Social Media DIY Workshop. And, she's a teacher, she's a coach, she likes information, and she has a very structured kind of way of approaching things and very detail-oriented. I, on the other hand, I'm a graphic designer, so more of what you think of when you think of a creative type. I know that's positive and negative, but I don't want to spend a lot of time with a filing system and all that kind of stuff. I just, want things to be easy. So moving on from that, I'll say I own my own business as well, and it's Gold Avenue. But what I love about Evernote is that I can just effortlessly keep things organized. I don't need to do extra steps to keep everything together. What Charlene loves is she has this, like I mentioned, like a robust organizational system that she maintains to a T, and she loves that Evernote gives her that capability to just, you know, have things like this customized way of keeping all her stuff together. So if you want to share a little bit about your story.
Sure. I know some of you here know me because of my business, social media DIY workshop. And that business has really evolved over the last 4 years as social media has evolved and people have started to catch on to the whole customer-focused online business presence stuff. And so I'm doing things very differently today than I was 4 years ago. I do everything from, well, I basically coach people on how to build an online business presence. And that starts with a website and a blog and goes out to include social media. But really starts with the website and blog. So in the course of a month, I spend a lot of time creating content. I write blog posts for my own site. I'm a featured blogger for Social Media Examiner, which is, depending on the stats that week, either the #1 or the #2 social media business site, I guess in the universe, the English universe at least. I don't know what China has going on. I also create webinars. I do anywhere between 2 and 4 webinars every month. So you can imagine the content that goes without the slides and the words and everything that goes together. I build websites for clients. Talk about lots of details there. And then the other piece of this is, what is that picture? Oh, the phone. I spend hours on the phone with clients. I have clients that I've never met, even in Europe, who call and I spend hours on the phone with them. And Evernote is what I use to keep track of all of this information. So I kind of do take a nosedive into data. I'm happiest if I'm, you know, like a pig rolling in the mud in all kinds of data. So, yeah.
And on that note, I, on the other hand, I prefer to not roll in my data, but I just, you know, I want it to be there when I need it, and I don't want to have to do anything more than necessary with it. So a little bit about what I do on a day-to-day basis is, the short answer is I'm a graphic designer, but to give you a little more context, I not only do design for my clients, but I do production management. And so like if you needed something like a t-shirt, for example, you know, I handle things all the way start to finish. And this is not a pitch, this is just, it will come up later regarding Evernote. So what I end up having is not just, you know, design files on my computer, but I've got a bunch of product that, you know, at one point I just had product and I didn't know what all I had in my product samples. I had online bookmarks. I used to use an online bookmarking service. You might be familiar with Delicious. So I had all my Delicious bookmarks for when I, you know, needed to find things on the web. I had just all these different, I had hard copies of things because I need paper samples, and sometimes clients hand me like, oh, this is my brochure I was using and now we're doing something different. So I had paper things. I had notebooks full of notes I had taken because I preferred, I'd take client notes on paper. So yeah, notebooks, stacks of t-shirts, all these different forms of information, and it was just hard to find stuff is the bottom line. But with Evernote, what it allowed me to do is put everything together. Obviously the physical t-shirt doesn't go in Evernote, but a photo of it can, and then I can search and know what product I have, as well as, you know, scanning in things from notebooks and no longer keeping things in a separate application for web bookmarks. You know, those things related to projects, I now keep them in Evernote. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that all works later, but that's how it solved the big problem that I had. It's just all these different formats, put them in one place and find things again.
Yeah, physical inventory, you know, I have mental inventory, I have digital inventory. So,
Yeah.
And that's the realm that I'm comfortable in. More, I think if I ran your business, it would drive me crazy. And I know mine would drive you crazy, so yes. We're even. So, you know, when I've been self-employed since 1995, and people who are self-employed or people who are starting something on the side, their job, I have such a soft spot in my heart for all of you. And I look around this room and I see, you know, a bunch of Clark Kents, you know, but I want you to know that I see the Spider-Man, listen to me, mixing the metaphor. I see the Superman inside everybody who's struggling to make a business go. And what I want you to know is that Evernote is one of those tools that can really add superhero powers to your business. And it's not about using it how I use it or how Steph uses it. It's really about figuring out what kind of information do you need, what problems do you have, and how can Evernote help you solve your problems. So like I said before, we want to really inspire you today with examples of how we do stuff, along with some nitty-gritty details of how it works. And we're going to tell you this here in a little bit, but we completely coordinated this presentation using Evernote. So, we walk our talk. And the flip side of that is that we actually haven't practiced it together until today. So if I cheat and look at my notes, it's because I don't want to miss a major point I want to say to you. We both talked about it. We could just come up here and blather on and tell you all kinds of great stuff even if we didn't have slides. But because we have slides, we're trying to be organized and follow that path. So let's start off by talking a little bit about how Evernote organizes everything. The basic unit of information in Evernote is a note. So Evernote notes. And you can think of a note, starting off a metaphor for it, is a piece of paper. You can put information on it. You can type information in it. You can paste information in it. You can also add photographs to it, or images, graphic images. And you're going to see examples from me and from Stephanie later that, if it's some graphic file that you create or something you get someplace else you can put in there. It also has a really neat feature. It'll use your computer's microphone to record audio files. So she and I are both visual people, but if you're an audio kind of person and you want to hear things, you can record notes and have them in there. Another thing I do...
Can I say something about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one thing, my husband's in grad school, and he mentioned he hasn't tried this out yet, but if you were to take notes in Evernote, and then also wanted to record your professor's talk or a presentation that you're going to, that would be kind of neat use for that. Yeah. And they specifically made the length of time that you record long enough to fit an average lecture. That's what they based it on. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah. One of the things I do with clients a lot is I spend a lot of time on a whiteboard. And so, what do you do at the end? You've got this great whiteboard with some brilliant flash of information that happened. So I take a photograph of it and I immediately send it up to Evernote. So I have it there permanently with my notes for that client. Another thing I do is I write on tablets of paper all the time. I have a tablet with me all the time. I love the visceral experience of the pen scratching across the paper. Even though I type almost 100 words a minute, I like to handwrite things. I think better that way. And so what I'll do also is I'll take a picture of my notepad, as many pages that I've scribbled on, and then put those up into Evernote also. So no matter how you want to process information and collect information, it can go into a note with Evernote. And then notes get organized into a notebook. And a notebook is just simply a collection of notes on a similar topic. And it could be anything, and I would guess no two people organize their business information the same way. I've even reorganized mine a couple of times, so I don't even keep mine the same way from time to time. So notes go into notebooks. And then if you need to, you can actually organize notebooks into stacks. And so a stack would be a group of related notebooks. So I'll give you an example of a stack. I have a note for every one of my clients with the basic information, all their demographics, a list of the projects I've done with them, their logo, a photograph of them, just the basic overview information. And then I have different notebooks that they move around between. I have one for potential clients, I have them for active clients, I have them for archive clients. And I'll move the note back and forth into the notebook depending on where they go. But all of those notebooks go together into a stack that I call my master client list. So in that stack is the notebook of current, active, and archive. And then notes are inside of those, depending on what a client's current status is. So, what good is it, to have all this information if you can't get access to it? So, the people at Evernote are actually platform agnostic. So, what they have done is they've created applications that will work on your Apple, on your PC, on Android devices. They don't care what platform you're using. So, you can use Evernote from a desktop app, which is what I use primarily. There's Evernote.com where you can get into your information there. I use it on my phone all the time. I happen to have an iPhone, but it's available for Android and for other phones. And then also I use it on my tablet a lot, my iPad. So it's available on all those local devices. And what is it you use, Steph?
I use the iPhone app a lot, as well as the desktop version. I use the web once in a while, and if I had an iPad, I would definitely use it on there.
But yeah, so I use Windows and she uses a Mac, and we still both love Evernote. So.
And had no problem sharing or syncing or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so how often can you say that about things?
Thanks. Anything.
All right, so now, how does this work? You've got all these devices, how does the information get there? Well, it's because everything is in the cloud, and I can see looking around the room, I'm making assumptions that you understand what the cloud is. So let me jump into a little more detail with that. So what happens with Evernote is that it will automatically, every 30 minutes, sync your data. So if you're working on the desktop, every 30 minutes you'll see a little thing flash up that says synchronization complete. And if you're watching around the system, my Windows device, you're watching around the system tray, you'll see other messages come up, checking for a list of client updates, blah, 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 blah. And then when the synchronization is complete, there's a message that comes up. You can also sync on demand. And I was doing that when Steph and I were working on the presentation. I would insert some things, and then I would say, basically sync it now so she could get access to the changes that I've made.
Yeah, we were texting back and forth and like, okay, I just changed it. I'm syncing right now. And then it's taking a really long time because I had some really huge files. And then, so it was like, okay, you can sync it now.
And a long time was like 2 minutes, because we're used to.
Right.
Now,
and that's unusual. Now. That was just from some crazy formatting on my end. But anyway.
All right, so let's see, what else would I say about the mobile? Or the cloud. The other thing was that I wasn't going to say here, but I'll tell you guys, is that what I love about it is that it doesn't hog up my mobile devices with data. So for example, my notes where I have files attached, it doesn't automatically download those files. Instead, it has like a placeholder, and so if I want to download a file, then I can download it to my iPhone. So it's very careful about the mobile device resources, and it doesn't just cloud it up with stuff. Okay? So then the last thing that happens is once you get a huge pile of data like this, is how do you find anything in it? Oops. All right. I'm confused about what slide is next, so let's go on to this one. Okay, I'll just change mine. So here's what the limitations are. Every note you create can have up to 25 megabytes of data with just the free account, which I had for more than 3 years and was very happy with. Then the other limitation is you can only upload with that only up to 60 meg a month. So what happens is if you try to add more data into a note that already has 25 meg in it, it just won't let you add it. And you'll have to create a second note. But when you hit the upload limit, you have to sit out and wait out the number of days until the end of your 30-day or your month cycle is over with them. Then your account starts over and you can start uploading things like crazy. So when I went crazy about a year ago and started using it like a fiend, backloading a bunch of stuff, I started hitting that upload limit. That's when I switched over to the premium account. And so the premium, I didn't even realize this, it let me have larger notes. So I now can have double the amount of information in every note. But I can upload, 1,000 megabytes. So.
And I think we were talking about earlier, you had trouble with the number of notes and all that, but not the size.
Right.
Whereas because I have these big graphic files and high resolution photos and stuff, that was an issue for me, and that's actually what got me to make the move to premium, is because I wanted to have larger note sizes.
Yeah.
So there's no limit on the maximum amount of data you can upload, just the amount per month.
Yes.
But it's kind of unlimited what you can put up there over time.
Right.
Yes.
Does that include just initial upload, or do updates count against that also?
It depends. If you change the file, a lot of times, I'll show you some examples in my notes on a webinar, I may have the PowerPoint slides. If I delete the current version of the PowerPoint slides and upload a new version of it, it counts as a new file, even though I deleted something else. So it's actually data you upload in that month.
Okay, but if it's just notes, does adding, if you change the content
you
of
don't
a
get,
page of notes, does that count against you in your upload?
Only the amount of change.
And are you talking about text notes?
It's just about anything. If
Yeah.
I got a graphic or a text or an audio on a page, on a note page, and I change something on that page, but not the whole page, how much?
It's only the amount of the change. You don't ever get double billed for uploading it. So if I'm syncing a note in and I've added one file, but it already was a really full note, I don't get charged for the whole note, just the part that's new.
That's what I was trying to find out.
Yeah. And if you are doing mainly text, those are just so much smaller that
they're teeny tiny.
Yeah.
They do a great job too of letting you can check and see how big every note is. You can also, there's a little status bar that will show you how much you've actually uploaded each month and how much space you have left and how many days you have left before your month starts over with them. And it's based on the day you start the account. It's not based on a calendar month or anything like that. And so of course, I don't pay them $5 a month. I realized pretty quickly, did the math, that the 45 was cheaper. So as you get this huge pile of data up there, what becomes critical then is searching. How do you find what you're looking for in that pile? And the people at Evernote thought of that. And so they have this really nice search feature. Maybe not Google caliber search, but it's very good search. So you can go in and search through. You can put in any search string. You can put in a single letter if you want, although that would be pretty crazy results. But you can put in as little as you want or as much as you want, multiple words, phrases, all the things that you're used to, and you can tell it either to search through all of your notes, or you can narrow the scope down to specific notebooks or specific stacks. So you can limit it that way. It also, I think this is the coolest thing. If you have a photograph in there, and the photograph includes either handwritten or typewritten text, and assuming the handwriting is not by your doctor, so it's at least legible, it will find it, and it'll find that note because if your shirt says, we're not wearing shirts that say anything. Steelers. If we would take a picture of you there, it would find the word Steelers on that note, which I just think is awesome. That's magic.
It's really amazing. And even with kind of bad handwriting, a lot of times it gets it right. Not all the time, but yeah.
Yeah. So my notes from the whiteboard and from the notes, they're pretty good. It pretty much finds what I'm looking for. But another thing you have going for you is you can actually assign a tag to everything, to every note, and you can have multiple tags. So you can come up with your own tagging system, and tags let you identify categories. One of the things that Stephanie and I do that's slightly different, we both tag all of our notes based on the client's name. Although I actually come up with a name for my client projects, and so I put the client project name on all the notes.
And I actually, before I ever started using Evernote, I had a numbering system for projects just to keep anything from falling through the cracks. This has nothing to do with Evernote, just my own thing, because if you've got a 1415 and a 1417, you're going to know there needs to be a 1416. Anyway, so I have these numbers, and I started tagging all of my notes when I started using Evernote. So if I want to know what the status of a project is, like, hey, am I still waiting to hear back? I just simply type the number in, and all the notes that are tagged with that will come up. So I can see all the information related to the project.
Yeah, across all notebooks and stacks, it will do a tag search. And I just want to point out, I think this is just hilarious that the right brain person actually uses numbers to remember stuff, and I come up with names.
Well, it's because if I made up a name, I would no. But this actually ties in. If I came up with a name, I wouldn't remember. Did I abbreviate it last time? Did I write out social media DIY? So it's still consistent.
Yeah.
Back to search for a minute. One of the other things you can do is do Google searches, and you can tell to also search it everywhere.
Yes.
Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah. I just turned that on recently, so now every time I do a Google search, it shows up in the top of the search results what it found in Evernote for me.
And that's something you set in your browser, is that correct? I haven't done it.
Something that comes with the Evernote, Chrome, and Firefox add-ins.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. I didn't remember how I set it up, but I've been having that now for the last month, and it's this is so fun.
Right.
So.
Cool.
But it's not visible to anyone else, just to you.
No, just to you.
Correct.
So basically it's an add-on to Chrome or Firefox, and then when you do your Google search, it will also search your Evernote, and if anything is relevant, it'll come up, which is neat.
It is.
But it will search, if you've shared your notes with someone, it will come up with their results. So the one that you guys share between the two of you.
Well, it's only searching your local.
Oh, it's only searching
You
your.
have to log into your Evernote account in the plugin,
Oh,
so
okay.
it'll search your account. That's what it
Okay.
It's searching your local database on your system.
Oh, okay.
I like that.
All right, so here's an example of what I do with my client data, and we'll just assume that I'm a little more anal than maybe my co-presenter is. And so when I'm setting up a new client, and here's how I do it. When I have a potential client, I create a note for them, and I fill in things like their demographics and their contact information, and their street address. And I actually, for a while I was typing it in, and then I realized I need to put it in Google Mail anyway. So I have it in my Google Contacts, and so now I actually go to the contact, fill it in there, and then I copy the web address of the Google Contact and I paste it into Evernote so that I have it in one place without having to update it. So, it's not Infusionsoft, but it's, working towards not having data that I have to update in two places. One of the other things I do that I think is really great is if it's a client that I have to go visit sometimes, I'll go out and find a Google map for their business, and then I will embed, in brackets, I'll say Google Map, because those links are awful. And then I put the hyperlink under Google Map, and that way if I'm out on the road with my phone and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought it was here and it's not here and I need to check the map again, I have it available to me on my device. So then once a client actually goes from being a potential client to a real client, there's different information I need to add in. And so you can see here some of the other stuff I add in. I start a project list. so that I know the projects I've done with that client. I also keep track of the invoices I've sent to them. And sometimes, especially if it's a larger client, you know, I do business with some pretty big companies, and they've got, you know, full-on accounts payable departments, and they only cut checks on Wednesday, and then only if you stood on your head for 2 weeks, and, you know, all those rules that they have. So I put that in there so that I don't ever get, I don't want to annoy people, because I want my check to come quickly and easily, because I've done my part and been very friendly, the name of the person I need to ask for. I also keep track of things like referrals, like who referred them to me, and then who they referred to me, because I do rewards for my clients based on those kind of things. So I keep all of that in a note.
Okay.
So.
I use my Evernote a lot for project-related things. Oh,
Oh, do I have more?
you have more.
Okay.
Hold
So
on
here's
back.
an example. Here's an example of a client note. That's right. We did an example. So this is what it looks like looking at the desktop version in Windows. So I've got 3 columns set up. The left column is all my notebooks and my stacks. And you can see the one that's highlighted is the current clients. And then over in the middle column is a list of all the notes that are in that notebook. And so there's a list of all my clients. And you can see I put pictures in there because I do much better if I can see their smiling face than having to, you know, figure out what the words are, especially if I'm a little sleepy. And so I've highlighted Ashworth Accounting, and then here's the note I actually have for her. And you can see, you know, I've got the cute little Google map thing there, but I actually typed in that one. One of the things I do is once I figure out something newer, better, smarter, more brilliant, I don't go back and retrofit everything else. I don't have time. My business keeps me too busy to go back and bring everything else up to, you know, Evernote 4.0 or whatever my personal version of Evernote is, my personal brilliance level is. So I have all this information here, and then you can see here's a link to invoices for that client and a list of the projects. So that's actually what it looks like in Evernote.
So I keep track of projects in Evernote. So from the first time I meet with a client, and you know, I mentioned I also like taking notes on paper. So I keep those in Evernote and just all the details about the project. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but you can, well, I'll just go ahead and talk about this now. You can email a note directly to your Evernote account. You get this special secret email address that you can find under your account settings. And so if I'm sending an important email to a client that's not just like, hey, are we still meeting tomorrow, but something related to the project that I'm going to need later, I blind copy my secret Evernote email address so that it goes directly into my Evernote. And so I'm not taking any extra step to put that information in Evernote. I'm sending an email anyway, so it's just automatically going in there. Should I talk about the tags and stuff, or is that getting too geeky, too ahead of myself?
I think this is a geekier crowd than...
Okay, we'll go for it. Okay, so neat little trick. If you are emailing your Evernote address, if you have different names for your notebooks, so if you have one called projects, if at the end of your subject, if you put @web, let's say is the name of one of your notebooks, then it will go, the email will go directly into that notebook. Cool. And if you put the pound symbol or like the hashtag symbol and you put a name of one of your tags that you've already created, then it will tag it with that. And you could do either or. You don't have to do both of those. Everything will go into a default notebook that you can pick. So if you don't specify what notebook that's where it'll go, and you can always change it later if you forget or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I call mine the inbox. I have a notebook called Inbox, and
there you
I go in every couple of days and see, oh, I didn't realize I'd sent that directly there. And I go through and clean it up that way.
Yeah, that's great. Most of the stuff that I'm sending to Evernote is going to go in my client project, so I have that be the default because I don't want to go in every couple days and clean it up. So there you go again, the difference. But
and I can say this on that inbox, I do reach inbox 0 all the time. My real inbox, forget it. Inbox 1,000.
Yeah, so if I am emailing a client about a project, I just simply like add the pound symbol and then the numbers, since I use the numbers for all the projects tags. Add that at the end of the subject line and it automatically goes in there, so when I search for information about that project later, it comes up. So anyway, so little sidetrack there, but basically, yeah, from the first time I meet with a client, this is an example of a project I did for an artist. She needed tote bags and aprons, and so you can see from the very first meeting, I have her project specs in there. I don't have that note highlighted, but I scanned in all the meeting notes. I have her artwork that we were going to be putting on the aprons and everything so that I could retrieve it later when it was time to do that. And then as I, searched around my different vendors and looked for like, oh, okay, what's going to be the best totes and aprons for what she's looking for, I just made a note of all of those in Evernote from the web keeper. And then when it was time to put it all together for her, I put it all on one PDF and emailed it to her, copied Evernote, and voila, it's all there. So that if she, called me up and is like, hey, I have a question about one of those tote bags you sent, like I just need to pull it up in Evernote and I've got exactly what I sent her as well as the other research that I've done. And it's just all right there with, no extra work because I'm already going out on the web looking for products. That's something I do every day. So to take 2 seconds and clip it is not any harder than bookmarking it, which is what I was doing before. And I'm already sending clients emails, so just to blind copy this address and it goes right in there. I mean, it's pretty awesome. So that's my system of keeping projects organized without really any extra work. Do you want to talk a little bit about the anatomy of a note?
Yeah, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff here. Here's an example of a note. This is a note I created for a webinar. And so I have one of these for every webinar. It has very similar kinds of information in it. But I want to use this to show you what all the tools are, what all the features are with it. So in the top right corner, it tells you I have this note in a notebook that's called Webinars. And it's got a drop-down list. I can actually move it to another notebook just by using that drop-down list and selecting something different. And then the next thing there, and the next thing down on that note is the title. And I try to make my titles really descriptive. I mean, I don't go as far as thinking like SEO, but that kind of thinking really is helpful because that way I know that I've got important words in the title and I make it easier to find. You'll notice that one has a date in it. So when my webinars, I always put dates in the title that way. When they show up in the list in alphabetical order, they're the order I did them in the year. So that seems to work really well for me. But again, like I said, if you're something you think is too anal, just forget about it. All right, next. The next thing down are the tags. And so you can see here all the tags that this note is currently assigned to. I can add more tags. I haven't found a practical limit on the number of tags you can have. I mean, obviously, the more tags you create, the more you've got to manage. So you want to keep it, small, big enough that it works for you, and small enough that it's not a whole system by itself.
You don't have to manage tags. They're just in there, whatever. I have some that I created and didn't use.
Yeah.
Sometime I'll clean them up. Maybe.
Yeah. And it does also, I'll mention this, it doesn't show it here, but there actually is over when you go look at the 3 panes, tags show up in the far left pane, and it actually shows you how many notes you have assigned to each one of those tags. Just so you know that.
So theoretically, if you had 0, you could go through and delete those tags, but or you could not.
Or you could ignore it.
You ready?
Yeah. And so then in the body of the text here, the body of the note is all this text, and most of this is stuff I've typed in. Sometimes it's stuff I've pasted in, like if I send out a constant contact, inviting people to the webinar, I'll paste in what I put in constant contact in there so I have it for the future. And you can use any of the normal formatting features you would expect. You can use any font you have installed on the device. So I come up with this huge list of fonts, which I probably shouldn't admit to. I can change the color, the size, bolding, underlining, bulleted lists, numbered lists, all of those kind of things that you would expect. I also put in hyperlinks, so you can see there I've got a list to the registration page for that webinar, along with the page on my website where I talk about it. And this is what I love about Evernote, is it pulls all of that stuff together in one place, because I have those pages bookmarked and they're over in Delicious. But if I'm working on that webinar, I'm going to do a webinar similar to that, or I'm going to do this one all over again, to have it all in one place, the description of what's there. So instead of having to go 4 or 5 different tools, Dropbox to get the file, blah, 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 it's all in one place, along with any description that I want to put. If I want to put notes about how I think the webinar went, or how I want to change it the next time I do it, I can do it all in one place. And that is really the thing that I think separates Evernote from all the combination of tools I have been using, which I was happy with until I realized what Evernote would do for me.
Right. Something we were talking about earlier is Dropbox is really nice for some applications, but if you have a file in Dropbox, there's just a file in Dropbox. You have no context, no notes about oh, this was the original version and we've made some changes, or here's a link to the actual site, or whatever it is that you might need to say about it or remember about it. So this allows you to have file and a little context, which can be nice.
And not to mention, if you don't remember exactly what the file name is, I mean, I'm sure I'm the only one who's ever done that. So,
Yeah.
all right, the next thing is, in the bottom half of this note, what you see are attached files, and the first one is an image, and that's the image that I used to promote that webinar. And it's actually a PNG, and it shows up there just and lets me see what it looks like. And then down below that, I have 2 sets of slides, and I actually inserted the PowerPoint slides in there. So the current version and then the archived version, because every time I do something, it's slightly different. So I've got the updated slides each time. And then down below that is a Word document where I write down my talking points so that I remember what words go with the slides, because my slides tend to be a single image with no words on them. And so for me to remember, oh yeah, you talk about these 4 things on that slide is really helpful. So I keep all that there. And like Steph said, I've got 2 versions here, so that I can go in and say, this is, I could put notes and say, when I updated from the last version to this one, I made these changes. I haven't been quite that anal with it, but anyway.
Yeah.
So you can attach multiple files to one note. And
Up to 25 meg if it's a free account, and up to 50 meg if it's a paid account.
okay. And so my question is, when you're doing a search on Evernote, say you forgot the client or whatever, will it also search the text in those files?
If they're files that have text, yes. And PDFs, the PDF, it limits it to, if you have to have a premium account for PDF search, and it only searches the first 100 pages. So there's a little bit of a limit with that. If you insert a PDF, I don't have a screen capture that shows it, but it actually shows you the page. And it's got this little strip across the top with left and right arrows, so you can actually, in that space on the page, flip through the pages. So it makes it really easy to see.
Or in my version, they just go one after the other, so maybe that's a Mac thing versus a
yeah, maybe it's
PC
Mac
thing.
versus PC.
But you can see all the pages one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about Dropbox. You can also specify a folder on your computer, and anything you stick in there, it'll stick into Evernote, just like Dropbox.
Nice.
Yeah, and I've got there's some tools that, the world has really gone crazy in the last year or so, and I love the way it's gone crazy. There's all these integrations that happen, and I don't want to get too geeky on all of you, but I actually, I have a Dropbox set up, and I used a third-party tool to do this, but I have 2 Dropbox folders, and if I drop a file, like you were saying, into one of those folders, it takes it to Evernote. If I drop it into the other folder, it converts it to a PDF and then uploads it to Evernote. So there's some really amazing stuff out there. And the tool, I use WAP Wolf, it's WAPP Wolf, and the other one I use is If This Then That, IFTTT. So I think you would say it is, but like that psst.
Runs with lip.
Yeah, that hair spray from years ago. That psst. But anyway, all right. So yeah, there's lots of stuff that this will do. It's really amazing all the stuff it does.
Oh, did you have a question or no? I thought I saw a hand go up, but
It was a scratch, sorry.
oh. But Joe has
Scratch.
Good.
Scratch.
Scratch that. Nice.
So, with attached files, can you hot link to them similarly to how you can hot link to Dropbox and share it with people?
Yes.
For instance, like a coworker or friend says, hey, can you just shoot me that file real quick?
Yeah, is that the next thing we're going to talk about?
Not quite, but we're headed there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to it.
Yes.
All right.
I was going to say, we can just talk about it now, but it's coming soon.
All right.
Yes, is the answer. Okay. Oh, yeah. You wanted to talk about checkboxes,
Oh, yeah.
which are needs.
So one of the features that I found really surprising is that it gives you the option of inserting a checkbox in there. And obviously, if there's a checkbox, you can go in and check it later. And this is an example of a to-do list I have for a client. Now, in every client project, I put a to-do list. And you can see some things are done and some things are not done. And I always put the most recent version of the list on the top. By the way, there's a little Windows thing that you Mac guys don't have. There's a keyboard thing that you can do to actually insert the date, time, and the minute. And I do that all the time. So that's what these are here. So it says updated, and I do this keystroke thing. And the Mac doesn't do that automatically for you, although Macs do.
I'm totally going to find the answer for that now.
Yeah, like I know you can set it up to do that, but it doesn't automatically.
Wait,
do it. So
I
feel
just want to
superior,
ask,
whatever.
what is that? Is it like control something?
I have to show you because I do it without looking, so I have to show you.
Yeah.
I
That's
will Google it. It's just very clever. I like that.
What's that?
Yeah.
Just saying I do it without looking. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember what the keys are, but I can put my hands in that configuration. So I got this checklist, and so what I do is, as I finish things for a client, I mark it off. So when I need to send them a status report or I need to invoice them, I've got all of this stuff here. And then typically what I do is if something doesn't happen, I will move it up into the list. I'll change the color so I know it was brought up from a previous list. Or I'll strike through it if we're not going to do it anymore. But I love this to-do list. And you can also have Evernote search for to-do items. So it's an amazing feature. I use it all the time. So we don't have a picture here for audio, but we kind of mentioned already you can remake audio recordings. Steph and I don't actually use it, but if you're an auditory person, that would be a great thing to have.
Yeah, it seems neat.
Yeah,
If
seems
you're
popular.
like a lawyer, maybe not a lawyer, but maybe if you were interviewing people or something, take notes of that.
Oh yeah, that would be great. And then just to like have a note of who you interviewed, any photos that go with it. Yeah, it'd be
It
great
doesn't
for-
transcribe it for you, does it?
No.
The Android
There's
voice
stuff
Oh,
has,
no. I'm
has
too
microphone
sweet.
built into the Evernote application.
I'm sure I have Evernote somewhere on there. I just never use
Yes. The iPhone one does too. Yeah,
Wanna do
so
that
it's very handy.
again?
I just don't ever think to use it.
It's okay.
You have a lot of good tips. You should do the next one.
It doesn't speak to you.
What's that?
It doesn't speak to
It
you.
doesn't speak to me. You have a lot of great jokes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going
So-
to on these.
Okay, while they figure that out. What's that?
It's a punster. That's my handle.
Oh, that's right. I Twitter know you. Didn't recognize the face. Yes. Okay. So while they figure that out, I'll talk a little bit about photos, which you can also do right from the iPhone app, and I believe Android as well. Yeah. So this is what it looks like when you're creating a new note in your phone, and I'll just say real quick, just like the other notes, you've got a place for a title and a place for a body. If you click that eye on the right, that's where you can add your tags and folders if you were so inclined. And then if you want to, there's more than one way to add a photo, but one way that's really simple and nice is just click the little camera icon, and then it'll take you straight to your camera. You take whatever photos, and then it will add them right to the note. So you can, put a little note of where you were at the time or whatever it is that you want to say. Are we doing okay on time?
We're slow.
We're slow. Okay, so we'll talk faster. There's just so many great things. Okay, so so that's photos, and photos are great for things like product details. I was doing some furniture shopping, trying to think if I wanted to buy this printer cabinet at IKEA, and instead of having to write down all the information, I could just Evernote it with the tag. I also took a little picture of the inside because that's not online. They only have a picture of the outside, and I wanted to know what the shelving looked like in the drawer.
And I love that I used Evernote as a verb. I Evernoted it.
Yes.
You Googled it. You Evernoted it.
Yeah.
I geeked it. Yeah, so also great for things for me, in a client meeting, sometimes people say, I want things this color. I literally had a client that Harry and I were actually meeting with in a bookstore, trying to explain what colors they wanted on their site. Literally pulled the book off the shelf and said, can we make it this color? And then they were like, well, I don't know if I should send this book home with you. And I just was like, hey, I'll just take a picture of it. I put it into my Evernote, so I have it with the rest of my project information, and I was able to pull the colors right off of the photo on the website. Also, we've mentioned a couple times that it's great for meeting notes and pictures of whiteboards and things like that. And so I'll briefly say, if you're a person that takes a lot of pictures of paper and uses your phone like a scanner, there's a really great new feature on Evernote where once you go to take a picture, then if you click on this little thing, it looks like a piece of paper, click it on, you'll get this nice thing. You can line up the text that you want to be in your note, click the little camera thing on the bottom, and you get just a much better scan that's going to be more searchable, and it's quicker. I don't know if you had this problem, but sometimes I'm trying to take those fake scans of things, and I have to do it 4 times because the light's bad, and it's just hard to get a good picture of text, so this gets you a nice clean picture, almost like a scan of your text. So one of my favorite features of Evernote, and I'll just tell you a couple faves real quick and then Charlene will, is that you can use it to share information. We talked about sharing from notes, and so one idea I saw somebody else had, their bio in a note. So whenever somebody was like, hey, I need your bio for this talk or this website, then you could just email them the note. Do we go to 3?
No, I think you get 55 minutes.
Oh, okay. So we got 5 minutes. Okay, super fast. So also you can email notes directly. So this is one example, just checking with a client if this was the product that they wanted. You can share notebooks to collaborate, things like working on events, group lists, if everybody in your office contributes to the shopping list and just notices when something is out, or presentations like Charlene mentioned. We worked on this together. The web clipper is great. It's an extension for your browser. You can save an entire web page, just a URL or a part of the web page is also a favorite. And then I think this is
my favorite feature is the fact that you can create a note link, that every note has a unique web address, and so you go to it like on the right hand side here, you come over here and you right click and it says copy note link. Then you go into Evernote and paste it in, and it pastes the title is what's visible, but behind it is that link. So I use it to create, like I see here, a list of clients who are using that project. I can actually go immediately down to that note someplace else. If you want to change the slide, I'll show them the other example. I use it to create tables of contents because I told you earlier that the thing that really clicked this for me was personal wiki. And wikis, once you get to the first page, you just click links to keep going through. And when I realized Evernote would do that for me, that I didn't have to navigate through the notebooks, through the notes, through the stacks, through whatever, that I could take myself directly where I needed to go, it made everything work for me. So these are all links to things that I need when I'm on that page and I'm working on something and I need to go to another page, there's the page I need to go to. Already built in for me, so I save all that time.
Okay, and these are some resources. Are we going to put these up on SlideShare after, and we
sure,
can
we
maybe
can do
check
that.
out some of these resources later on?
And we'll just say this, the resources are awesome. Go to evernote.com, there's all kinds of stuff out there. There's forums, you can get tech support, and there's also this thing called the trunk, where they have everybody's third-party apps that are coming and building it for Evernote. Because like I said, there's 34 million users now, so there's enough people that people want to build things for them.
I just want to tell you, if you email something to me, I will put it on the TechPHX website and the social media.
So we will do that.
And tomorrow everybody can download it and watch it or whatever.
Perfect.
And so then here's the last thing. In April, a book came out, and the only problem with print books, I love the dummies books. I guess I am one of those dummies. But I love them, and so what happens though is this book came out in April, so the writing probably finished in January. So the information there is like almost a year old at this point. We're talking about for dummies, and here's our for dummy author.
Not mine.
So that one's not his, but yeah. So there's this great book if you want an introduction, but just understand that the features have kept moving on for the last year. So if you have any other questions, we'd love to answer them, but we also want to let the next group in. So
thank you. To you guys. Thanks for hanging in there with us. All right. Super. Can I just unplug this?
How would you guys characterize Evernote as versus OneNote, or as an alternative to OneNote, or would you see them as other than not being Microsoft?
I have.
Yes.
Is OneNote the one that's kind of like Pinterest looking?
Pardon?
Is OneNote the one that's more like picture based?
No.
No,
that's something
it's
different.
open to the reason why it's right. Well, but they have OneNote available now on the iPad and Android anyway, so it's all the same.
I've not used OneNote enough to really give you a really smart answer, but I think
What
that's
time
true.
is it? It's 3.
I think that's what it is.
Kathy, who was here, had not class on Monday. That's why I asked.
I think they're really comparable to this.
Okay. Yeah, I think it maybe just matter what you're more.
Stephanie, I have a question for you.
Yeah, ask me.
So I use Delicious extensively.
Yes.
Yes, but I noticed it's not been updating the plugin on my Firefox and stuff. So I'm wondering, are you using Evernote as an alternative to that, or how are you using them together?
Before I started using Evernote a lot, I switched my bookmarks over to Pinboard, which I have been happy with. Get this out of your way.
Pinboard, okay.
Yeah.
I stayed with Delicious.
I'm still with Delicious, but I'm looking at like Xmarks and other alternatives. But once you get set in your ways, you don't want to change.
Exactly, but lately I've been kind of feeling like I should just move everything over to Evernote because it is kind of a hassle to have one kind of bookmark over here and another kind over there.
You think there's a way to import all your bookmarks and stuff?
I believe you can export them and then, yeah, I believe there's a way to do it.
No, I didn't do a darn thing. But you can.
It's right, keeping your own little personal test.
Sorry, we're long-winded.
Yes.
I haven't found a replacement for that.
I've been looking, I mean,
I
not
think
like
this is
hard,
my one,
but
or is this yours?